Men in black and white, an honest conversation. All right, ladies and gentlemen, will he or won't he sign the bill to release the Epstein files? We're going to have to just wait and see. Donald Trump also came up with another ridiculous number, talking about he's also secured $17 trillion in new investments. The real number is likely like a billion or something like that. It's insane. But we also are seeing more measures of accountability when it comes to the Epstein files. We've had another casualty from a gentleman who was on the list. Can we even call them gentlemen at this point? Brockton Ellis joins me live from the upper Hudson River Valley, the beautiful confines out there where the fall foliage has come and gone. But, you know, there's always next year. Brock, let's get right into it. Is he going to sign this bill, or is he just going to play games?
He's certainly not going to rush to sign it, right? Because every day that it doesn't happen, isn't, potentially coming out as a day in his favor. It's kind of a weird conundrum for him, right? Because if he signs it, then he kind of gives up a little bit of power. If he doesn't sign it, and then Congress overrides his kind of pocket veto, then it's a little bit of an embarrassment for him. So I think in the end, he signs it at the last, 10 days in. And once he's totally assured that Bondi will dive on grenades before she will release these tapes.
Right. Well, remember, Bondi is invested in this from the very beginning, right? From that sweetheart deal that all those people hooked to this thing got down there in West Palm Beach. So, she's also protecting herself in a roundabout way. So, look, these people are disgusting human beings. If you're trafficking children, you deserve every harsh bit of justice that we can mete out your way. There is no excuse for grown men to be engaging in this kind of behavior. And these are also men that we have called leaders in our communities. So why are leaders in our communities getting the kind of break that Jeffrey Epstein got for 30 plus years? Maria Farmer was hung up on by the FBI. Like, Brock, can you imagine that scenario? Like, hey, I was molested and trafficked by this, well-to-do guy in Florida. Click.
Yeah. This is like a 10 times the Me Too movement type of scenario, right?
Yes.
It's like, talk about people not being heard, because it's underage girls, right? So it's even more egregious, right? And just no voice, no one listening, no one cared. So yeah, I guess Lawrence Summers at Harvard is going to get, has kind of gotten, got kicked off a board, and now Harvard's going to investigate. Harvard's going to get around to investigating, and he's probably going to have to resign. I mean, he says he doesn't want to, but it's just so bad for the Harvard brand to have him on staff. Right. They're gonna be forced to fire him, but that's not any real ramification for him, right? That right. Job is more a hobby, something he's doing for fun on the side. It's not his livelihood.
Right.
So, but okay, it's a bit of a casualty on that front. But yeah, Bondi. Imagine we could see Bondi's finances. How much money you think's been funneled to her over the years to keep Epstein and Trump out of trouble, right? I mean, you don't do this cover-up shit for nothing.
For free, right?
I mean, obviously she's now been rewarded with a great job, but there's no doubt that she's been paid off along the way. And what else did Epstein have to offer her?
The thing about it, Brock, she's a hyena. Watching her on Capitol Hill, take pot shots at Democratic lawmakers was just a joke. You're not a professional. It made me even question gravitas even more. I don't have any faith in her upholding the law.
No,
I don't have any faith in her handing out justice.
Pam Bondi is gonna go to jail. She
Yes.
will go to jail as soon
Yes.
as if and when, if ever, the Democrats take power again in this country, Pam Bondi will be investigated and go to jail. And I guess she's making the bet that that's never going to happen. So she's
Right.
going to try every trick in the book to keep, Trump in power. And therefore, she's either going to doctor the evidence, which I'm, it's going to be hard to do, right?
Right.
And or
Because
just block
remember,
it.
the Epstein estate is releasing
Yeah.
the same tranche of emails as the Justice Department does, so we can always compare apples to apples, right? Like we don't have to wonder whose name was here, because the Epstein's estate, is just as motivated to get this stuff out and to take the pressure off of the Epstein name and put it where it squarely belongs in terms of some of the other people that participated in this.
But if Bondi plays the national security card or we have an ongoing investigation of Bill Clinton card and nothing can come out,
Right.
the ball will fall back on the American people again, because at
Right.
that point there's nothing left for Congress to really do, right? They have no enforcement mechanism. So it's really going to come out on the people to just make so much noise and to vote a certain way and to protest and just to not allow any other business to go on until this issue is reconciled. Like,
Right.
we're just gonna have to it's just gonna have to be loud and aggressive.
Right. And impeach and remove has got to be, hey, impeach and remove is now the song we're singing. They've got this protest coming up in
Yep.
DC, which
Yep.
we've been calling for the better part of a year now.
Yep.
So it's finally starting to happen. We're finally starting to bring the fight to his front door. Also, Brock, there is more ammunition. It's not just the Epstein files. Eugene Vindman is out now saying, hey, since you want to welcome this murderous thug, Mohammed bin Salman, to give out the flyovers and the red carpet and the royal treatment, why don't you release the information, that transcript from that phone call in 2019, right after Jamal Khashoggi, a Virginia resident, a U.S. citizen, was brutally butchered and murdered in Turkey. There was a phone call between bin Salman and Trump, and Eugene Vindman has heard it. He's heard it along with the extortion call. So he said these two calls are the most problematic that he's heard, and he wants this second transcript release. More impeach and remove talk.
You know
The
what?
crimes are adding up.
How come that transcript didn't come out during the Biden administration? Is it national security? Was it not allowed to be disclosed? It sounds like it's allowed to be disclosed if Vindman's calling for it, but why was this shit swept under the rug when there was an opportunity to expose Trump for the treasonous and corrupt behavior of his first administration? Why was the game played in such a soft way, right? From Garland on through to Biden. Why did we soft pedal how fucking disastrous Trump was in his first term and the insurrection? Why was he protected? If there's this phone call with a transcript that's so problematic for Trump, I think it's absolute bullshit that we're just hearing about it now. I hadn't heard that Vindman was calling for this, so this is my initial reaction to hearing this news, and I'm just like, what the fuck?
Right.
So cordial, so norm, so, you don't kick sand on an old president, this and that. Meanwhile, he was out, fucking storming the Capitol.
Right. And we know, I'm going to go ahead and say it, Biden and Garland were not ready for the moment. They were not the people that needed to be in those positions, because look what we've got. Because they didn't do what they needed to do, what they were charged with doing for the American people, we're right back in a worse. But look at our economy. Look at our societal decay. Look at the rot from the inside out that's come with this it's we know where the onus lies. It was Biden and Garland.
Very, I mean, Biden, was he too old? Was he too much a function of the system and wanting to play by certain protocols and norms, and
Yep.
almost too much respect for the
That part.
system right there?
Yep.
And Garland just so worried. Well, first of all, he was the wrong guy. He had the background of being like a Republican background. So was he ever going to have the teeth to really go after that
Right.
side? But also, once again, so worried that it would look like, the president was dictating the investigation and not letting it look like a partisan, that we just played so soft. I mean, such a
Right.
lesson learned, unfortunately, a harsh lesson learned, that the Dems can never play that soft again, which is why I'm
Right.
impressed with what Ro Khanna has done by leading this charge. Like, this doesn't happen without Ro Khanna and Thomas Massey, who I give credit
Right.
to. But they just decided to pick up this ball, and they hammered it home, and they won public sentiment. And now the Epstein files are in motion and have been the top story in the country for a couple of months now. So they haven't won the war yet, but they've won a lot of battles along the way, and they proved that Donald Trump can be bullied back, which is really almost as important as anything else that's come out of this recent scenario. Mark, I think I lost you. Unless I mesmerized you, I think I lost you.
Dude, I'm sitting right next to the router.
And right around between the 10 and 12 minute mark, we have some problems, so you might have to look at that on the editing.
Yeah.
But to jump back in
All
and
right.
pick it back up, right? Our problem was Garland and Biden kind of played the game in old school style and way too soft. The good
Yep.
news coming out of it, if there's anything, is like across the board, Democrats now are one by one fighting battles everywhere in every corner. I mean, I saw Jason Crow go at it on Fox News today
Yes.
about like the military, and just going 2.5 minutes of going at like Martha McCallum, I think it was, on the other side, right? Mark Elias, wins a big battle in the Texas redistricting. It'll get appealed, but like, those are big wins and good fights. But you see Dan Goldman, and you see Ro Khanna and Swalwell, and Ted Lieu was out saying something the other day, like just almost like player by player, the fight is coming out everywhere, every time. The only outlier I see is the Senate. The Senate still seems to feel like a lot of them are above the fray, and they're still
Right.
sort of like,
Yeah,
think
they're up
that they're a part of an
Yeah.
America that does not exist right now, but they still think that that's going on. You just don't get the same fight out of, Chuck Schumer's army, right? And that's why it's led by
Right.
the fact that they haven't unseated him is just a message enough to the rest of us that they're not serious yet.
Right. Right. What was your thought on Marjorie Taylor Greene on Capitol Hill with the survivors? yesterday. It was quite the scene. I mean, it was impressive, man. And those young ladies are really starting to get a lot of steam behind them and a lot of public interest.
And they're being really vocal, and they're grabbing the microphone, and now I feel like they're on a mission, and they're
Yeah.
on a mission. They've gotten over the hump of, maybe the shame of it for them. They shouldn't have it. They bring that, or not wanting to address it, or thinking maybe they put it behind them. Now I think that this switch has flicked to them saying like, well, we're doing this for the next generation. I heard
Right.
that. We don't want this to happen to other young women down the road. So
Yep.
now they feel like there's a cause, not only just an anti-Trump cause, but a cause for women in general. So yeah,
Right.
they're becoming a very, very powerful force that really kind of can't be denied. So they're getting a lot of airplay as well. Look, MTG is either she's political genius / fraud / smart enough to know which way the wind's blowing, way out
Right.
ahead of it. We hope. I think there's going to be others that start following her, maybe not as aggressively, but start saying, hey, I can carve my own path here, and I gotta get away from Trump and how he's taken MAGA, or almost accuse him of forgetting what MAGA is all about, however they brand it, because they do see a weakened, buffoonish, mental decline, dementia-ridden, leader here that
Right.
he can be challenged. Like, it doesn't. Yeah, you're going to get some death threats. Everyone gets death threats as soon as they go online, right? It's so easy
Right.
to do a death threat now. Click the keyboard, hit send. It's a death threat. It's almost like they just have to be ignored.
Right.
So I feel like MTG, Jamie Raskin got spanked for like welcoming her over to Democrats if she wants to come. And I think he learned his lesson right there. He's
Yeah,
not
that was
welcome in the
enough.
Democratic Party. Fuck that. But happy to have her become an independent or fight a MAGA civil war, which is really what she's doing.
All that.
So I'm all in. But I like what if you didn't know anything about her and you only saw her starting with how she's interacted with the victims of the Epstein debacle, atrocities, you'd be like, wow, this Marjorie Taylor Greene is a real leader.
Right.
Wow, she's a real leader of women, and she's like, what a powerful voice she is.
Right.
You think she was great. But unfortunately, we know her history and know, she might just be an opportunist.
Exactly. And I think that's closer to the truth. That's what she's been most of her adult life. After this young man has gone through the tragedy of a school shooting, and she's berating him in on the mall in Washington, D.C. I'll never forget that image. So, she can work all her life trying to be a do-gooder and trying to flip the script, but it ain't gonna fly because we know who she is at the core. The other thing I wanted to circle back and get your thoughts on too, Brock, was, the fact that, Donald Trump, again, has lost the fastball. Did you see him going after this reporter, he called one reporter piggy, he called another one awful. You don't have to embarrass our guests like that. We're gonna pull the license for ABC. He's got nothing. He's got nothing in the tank. And he's got nothing that he can pull up to make people say, whoa. It's just, it's like, it's like buffoonery from the
it was
president's
embarrassing.
office.
The one in the White House, particularly, those were some great questions for Ben Salmon. Like, hey, how about
Yes.
the fact that this guy basically was a murderer?
Right.
She asked some aggressive questions, and he was like, oh, some people didn't like Khashoggi, as if that was a death sentence, right? Because if you're a person that has some people that don't like you, means you should get carved up with a bone saw and then thrown in acid and poured down the drain, right? So that was just asinine. And the one on the plane, what I liked about what happened when he called the woman a piggy on the plane is that there was a lot of outcry to the other reporters for not having stood up for her or said anything. And that's the kind of shame that needs to be inserted into the system, so the next time something like that happens, other people stand up and shout down the president or tell him he's out of line. And like,
Right.
And let's start changing the dynamic of these scenarios. It just goes back to the bully thinks he can get away with it. But come on, you're 79 years old and you're calling like a 30-year-old woman piggy. I mean,
Right.
seriously. That's
Right.
like you're back to second grade on the playground. I mean, it's embarrassing.
Yep.
But it also, I don't feel like it's working. Like,
No.
I don't
No,
think it's going to deter the next person from asking tough questions. The tide is shifted.
Oh, dude, without question. And we've already seen the press corps dismantled, right? Like, we don't even know who these people are that are in the press corps now.
Yeah.
It's been broken down, right? And you know, Donald Trump basically dismantled it, so he had a bunch of yes people in there, but he still can't get the yes people in there because people are still asking tough questions, and that's what needs to happen. But you're right, that level of shame needs to be thrown his way every chance we get. So, you know, I mean, the fact that he's out here, it's beneath the office, you know, and you want to talk about institutional norms. Like, when have we ever seen this?
No.
Like, the worst thing I could ever remember is you know, Bush 41, you know, kind of getting on Stone Phillips for asking, you know, about his extramarital affairs.
Never before, and probably never again, certainly in our lifetimes. But it still belies the question of, you know, what are we going to do about it? We still have 3 years plus of this guy, unless the impeachment movement bubbles up. But we did watch MAGA politicians all vote against the president's interests this week because of massive public pressure, which tells you that there can be an impeachment if there's enough public pressure, overwhelming public pressure. There could be an impeachment. There'll be the day where MAGA's like, we got to get rid of this guy. He's even too off the rails for us. And you know what? He's not powerful anymore.
Right. Right. And that's, you know, the bottom line, is that his power meter is running out of juice. Nobody sees him as an effective leader anymore. And, you know, I was hoping cholesterol would do its thing, but apparently it's taken its time. But, you know, he's got nothing left. So impeach and remove. We've got the fight coming to the front door of, you know, Pennsylvania Avenue. So, you know, things are turning.
Things are definitely turning.
But like you just mentioned, yes. But the American people are going to have to stay loud, stay engaged, and stay ready for some really drastic action.
Hey, look, the protests have to just gain more and more momentum. Like, it can't be game over for protesting, right? So, and you can see how the street fights, Chicago won the street fight against ICE, you know? And hopefully it's a blueprint for now Charlotte to have their own street fight against ICE and just make their lives miserable. And Mondani's already has the teeing up for the fight in New York. And I can't wait for ICE to come to New York, because we need to push this to conflict in order to push it over the edge, right? We can't slow play this. On the electoral side, we got to go win in Tennessee, right? That's big in 2 weeks. Kamala was in Tennessee yesterday.
David Hogg is there. Yes.
I think we're going to flood the zone. What else does anyone have to do? No one's voting on anything. Everyone who has AOC, Jasmine, got to have them there. Got to get out every possible vote and get any independent and just see if that's enough to turn a plus 22 Trump district. because
We got to get it done.
that would even be bigger than winning like New Jersey and Virginia governorships. You take a plus 22 district in Tennessee, heart of the South. You know, you're changing the whole dynamic, and you're showing Congress, House and Senate, that nothing's not in play. Every single seat is then in play, and that's going to get more of them scurrying to distance themselves from Trump. So we need it on the streets, and we need it in the election booth. And you combine those two and keep that momentum going, and Trump's just going to get weaker and weaker every day. And we know he's getting older and slower every day, so he can't fight back. I think I lost you here again, Mark. Can you hear me?
Yeah, bro.
Yeah, we might have to wrap up quick. Yeah, your connection's lousy. Like Wi-Fi doesn't even work anymore. Airlines don't work. Well, I was going to give you my quick hit. You may not have seen Home Depot numbers sucked. Target numbers sucked. So more and more of these retailers that are on the MAGA side of the ledger in particular feeling the pinch, which is both, I think, some protests, but also just some flat out economics of, you know, basically a consumer base that's stretched and hurting and can't spend in the same way. But it does lead us to the big blackout, which I hope we have huge, you know, huge numbers success on, and a huge lack of spending. I mean, and let's just make sure we throw Starbucks in the mix, right? If they're not going to pay their baristas and be anti-union, I mean, it's the decline in the union movement. It's been another major factor in why we have so much income inequality. So, I mean, the way the left has to think really pro-union. And if you're thinking that way, you have to be in support of workers that are willing to, you know, to go on strike and take the economic pain. So, like, live without your Starbucks. Go to a local coffee shop. Go to the bodega on the corner, or go to the guy with the cart on the corner. Starbucks coffee ain't that fucking good. I mean, let's face it.
It ain't that good. It ain't good enough. Yeah, to read that the American worker is suffering behind right now. So, all right, buddy, let's stay loud and proud. Let's get this thing edited and get it up in space so we can continue the fight. It's starting to turn our way, buddy.
Some signs of life. Some signs of life. All right, good stuff, Mark. Always a pleasure. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
All right, Brody. Sounds good. Peace.